Good morning, students. Today we will do the chapter The Delhi Sultanate. Why it is known as the Delhi Sultanate? What was its original name? Let's start with that. The Muslim rule started in India when Muhammad Ghazni invaded India. Muhammad Ghazni invaded India not to rule over India, but to take away the booties of India for his own kingdom, riches of India. That is why he was the first Muslim king to invade India. After Muhammad Ghori's death, 115 years after his death, 50 years after his death, Muhammad Ghori invaded India. Muhammad Ghori was the first Muslim ruler to invade India to rule over India. So he ruled over India for quite a number of years. His enemy was Prithviraj Chauhan. There are two reasons how he died. Number one, according to his scholars, he fell from while returning to Ghor, he fell from the horse and died. And number two is Chand Bardai, the court poet of Prithviraj Chauhan. Prithviraj hit him on his forehead and he died. So when Muhammad Ghori was returning to Ghor, he appointed Kutubuddin Aibak as his governor. So after Muhammad Ghori's death, Kutubuddin became a ruler. So the rule started with a slave, and that is why previously we called it a slave dynasty. In this slave dynasty, 5 dynasties ruled there. But later on, it was said that slave is a negative word. So that is why, as these kings ruled over Delhi and in and around areas of Delhi, these kingdoms came to be known as Delhi Sultanate. So let's start with the Delhi Sultanate. So the part is political history of Delhi Sultanate. 5 dynasties ruled over Delhi Sultanate. This was known as a slave dynasty, and it was also known as Mamluk dynasty. So this Delhi Sultanate started with the slave dynasty, and the slave dynasty is also called a Mamluk dynasty because in Turkish language Mamluk means slave. The dynasty ruled from 1206 to 1290. This was the first Muslim dynasty to rule over India, and previously it was Muhammad Ghori. This dynasty was founded by Kutubuddin Aibak, who was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. So Muhammad Ghori bought Kutubuddin Aibak at 1000 rupees dinar, because at that time the coins were called dinar. From a slave, he was so capable, Kutubuddin Aibak, that he became a governor general of Muhammad Ghori. So student, this is a lesson you can learn from history. No matter you may be weak today, no matter you may be very quiet child, but one day with your effort you can progress and become one of the glorious of our country. Bring proudness to your parents and your capability can improve. So never think that today if I have got less marks, I may not get higher marks or I cannot improve myself. You can do it. When a slave can become a ruler, why can't you from an average student or a weak student become the best and administrative officer of India? You can. Only your willpower should be there, your capacity should be there. He was succeeded by his slave Iltutmish. So one by one, each and every kingdom, the ruler who came to rule over these kingdoms was slave of each other. So Kutubuddin Aibak also got a slave named as Iltutmish at 1000 dinar. So after Kutubuddin, his slave Iltutmish became the king. Iltutmish had 4 sons who were not capable to rule. So he appointed Razia Sultan as his descendant. So all his 4 sons were not capable, and Razia Sultan was a very capable. She dressed like a man. She learned horse riding, warfare, everything. She was a very capable ruler, and so that is why Iltutmish appointed Razia. But the nobles did not like to be ruled by a woman. So that is why after Iltutmish's death, his third son became the king. But though he was not capable, so the nobles later on removed his son and appointed Razia Sultan as the ruler. So she was the first female ruler of India. Next is the Khilji dynasty. So after the slave dynasty or the Mamluk dynasty, the second rule was the Khilji dynasty. This kingdom ruled from 1290 to 1230. This dynasty was established by Jalaluddin Khilji, who killed the last ruler of the slave dynasty. So the last ruler of the slave dynasty was the fourth son of Iltutmish. He was killed by Jalaluddin. Jalaluddin was the governor general. So when he saw that the king is very weak, so he killed him and he ascended the throne. Jalaluddin was killed by his nephew Alauddin. So each and every king had killed, then only they have become the king. So how Alauddin killed Jalaluddin? Jalaluddin was returning from a warfare, and Alauddin built a large stage to welcome his uncle for the winning of the war. As he climbed on stage, the stage fell down and Jalaluddin was killed, and Alauddin ascended the throne because he wanted to become the king as soon as possible. Alauddin was the most powerful ruler of the Khilji dynasty, and other rulers were not so powerful. That is why the Khilji dynasty did not rule for a long period of time. It only ruled for about 30 years. Next is the Tughlaq dynasty. This dynasty was ruled from 1320 to 1414. The last ruler of the Khilji dynasty was killed by the king with the title of Ghiyasuddin. Means the last, whoever was the last ruler of the Khilji dynasty was very weak. His governor general Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq killed him. After Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq became the king. Muhammad bin Tughlaq is very famous in history as the wisest fool because he was very wise. So he planned many things, but the plan was not suitable for that very situation. But later on, his ideas were adopted by many of the kings, and even we have adopted some of his ideas. So that is why he was known as a mischievous fool. He was known as a wisest fool, whatever you can say. He was a good commander and an able administrator who extended the kingdom up to the Deccan. After his death, Firoz Shah Tughlaq became the king. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was not a very war loving. He did not do much war, but he consolidated his kingdom. He set up many new Hisar and the places in Haryana and Uttar Pradesh were established by him. He planted many fruit trees. He sold them and did income of a large amount of money. So he was a peace, like he made many facilities for the irrigation. He built many dams. He worked for the welfare of the people instead of fighting war. He was an able ruler and did many works for the development of his kingdom. After the Tughlaq dynasty came the Sayyid dynasty. Sayyid dynasty was very only for very weak ruler, or not much is known about the Sayyid dynasty. Actually, they started the kingdom with the name of Sayyid brothers or the kingmakers. They support the person whom they supported was nominated as the king. Later on, they themselves became the king. This dynasty ruled from 1415 to 1451. They were essentially the rulers of Delhi Sultanate and claimed to be the descendants of Prophet Muhammad. So this is the political history of the Delhi Sultanate. You just have to remember that it is not not so very important in your syllabus. Next is just a minute. Sorry. Now, after the Sayyid dynasty came the Lodi dynasty. This dynasty ruled from 1451 to 1526. This dynasty was established by Gizlai tribe of Afghanistan. Means from Afghanistan, this tribe had come as a trader to India, and when they found the king weak, one of their general was very strong. He killed the king and he became the king. It has three important rulers: Ibrahim Lodi, Daulat Khan Lodi, and Bahlul Lodi. All of you might remember Ibrahim Lodi and Daulat Khan Lodi because Daulat Khan Lodi had invited Babur to defeat Ibrahim Lodi, then first battle of Panipat. So that is how the Mughal rule started in India. So the rule which started with the Delhi Sultanate, the Muslim rule, it continued till the Mughals. So these were the five dynasties which were ruled by this. So two important kings of this dynasty you have to do, that is Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Alauddin Khilji was the most powerful ruler of the Khilji dynasty. He established a vast empire by raising a large, efficient army, building new forts and repairing old ones. Alauddin was very much egoistic, and he wanted to build up such a vast empire that people will remember him for his name. So that is why the first important thing he did, he started appointing people in the army and giving them good weapons so that all the neighboring kingdoms will be afraid of him. He built new forts for the army to settle in border areas so that the enemy would not attack, or they can check the attack of the army and repaired old ones. He built the city fort in Delhi to protect the people from the Mongol attacks. He introduced many reforms like intensive training to the fresh recruits and dismissal elderly soldiers. Now you can understand that in our Indian country also, aged people, or you can say after the 40 to 50, 45 to 50 years, people are not kept in the army. They are given free and they can do any other work because they needed young blood and energy to fight the war. So he recruited every year. He used to take recruit many people, appointed, choose many people to join the army and dismiss the elderly soldiers. He introduced a system of branding horses called the, what is branding horses? Means grouping the horses in different categories so that capable army men can get capable horse, and old horses can be used for carrying goods from one place to another. He cut all necessary expenditure and abolished most of the jagis. Why? Because he did much of the expenditure on the army. So unnecessary expenditure has to be cut off. Like in this COVID time, you are spending amount in the food and important things. You are not spending amount on your shoes, clothes, or unnecessary expenses. So what is necessary, that has to be made. So he thought that if army is strong, he can maintain a vast and a successful empire. Jaggi system was abolished. He took away the Jaggis in his own hand and gave the salaries. He fixed the price of the goods and also the rates of profit. Why? Because he gave less salary to the soldiers. So he lessened the price and fixed the price, because so that with that less salary also they can meet their necessities and get enough food to eat and live. He took a number of steps to crush the powers of the nobles by not allowing them to use wine and gambling. He himself took out all the wine and other things from his palace and threw them on the road or the drain to show to the people that if the king is not drinking, you should also not drink. And gambling was forbidden. Gambling means jua. It is very bad habit, and by that the people, like you play games in PUBG, that is also a bad habit. Please stop playing it. That hinders your studies. In the same way, gambling hinders your habits and stops you from making good doing development. At the end of his life, he was dominated by Malik Kafur, his commander. So Malik Kafur was also a slave of Alauddin Khilji, who became a commander by his own capability. So when Alauddin Khilji became weak in the later stage, Malik Kafur dominated him, and after his death, he became the king. So the next ruler which you have to do is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Ghazi Malik defeated Muhammad bin Tughlaq, known as the wisest fool. He was a king, important king of the Tughlaq dynasty. He was very intelligent. Ideas were very good, but the planning was not good. That is why it did not become successful. Ghazi Malik defeated the last Khilji ruler and ascended the throne with the title of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. After his death, his son Jona Khan became the king with the title of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So, what was the original name of Muhammad bin Tughlaq? Jona Khan. He had great ideas and plans that failed because the common people could not understand him. Like, for example, when our Prime Minister started the citizenship bill, we rejected it. Why? Because we could not understand. When each and every nation of the world gives citizenship card to their countrymen, why can't we get it? I don't understand why we don't need it. We all should understand that we should get a citizenship card. That is our you can say proof or idea that we belong to certain country. When American citizenship, that is green card, Australia, so every country has its citizenship card. Why can't India have? So the idea is very great, but we are not able to understand. But after 5 years, we might understand. He is known as the man of opposites because of his failure. Like suppose Einstein would not have been a man of opposite, he would not have done inventions. Wright brothers would not have been man of opposite and would not have jumped from their mountain and broke their bones. They would not have invented the aeroplane. In the same way, to be successful, you have to do experiments. You have to use ideas. You may be a failure today, but you may be successful because we learn from our failures. In the same same way, if you get less marks, you are not able to score marks, but if go on doing it, you will be able to be successful. So students, please do not lose hope. In this COVID also, our online studies are going on, and in a better way. You are able to sit in the house and study, take it in a positive way. This is the medium of education which will be adopted after 10 years. Then what will happen? You will have to adopt it. So why don't you learn it today? So if you fail today, don't worry, you will be successful tomorrow. Failures are the steps to success. His kindness towards corrupt officers led to weaknesses in the administration. This is a very good example of India's politics. Our officials, corrupt officials, leads to the weakness. Why India, being a very developed country, where everything it has everything, infrastructure, it is not able to progress. Why? Because of our corrupt officials. If officials would have been not corrupt, today India would have been the most successful and a developed country of the world. So you students are the citizens of tomorrow. You students are the citizens of our officials tomorrow. So you better take up the vow that you will not be corrupt. So it will not. So today, if you don't do cheating, you will be successful. If you cheat and pass today, you may be a failure tomorrow. He was the first sultan to carry out military campaign in the south. So now there are certain failures of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. We are going to do it. What are the failures of Muhammad bin Tughlaq? Transfer of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad and then shifting it back to Delhi. Now I'll explain each and everything in brief. Just listen. Delhi was the capital of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and Daulata was the middle part of his kingdom. He thought, if I will be in the middle of my kingdom, I'll be able to rule my kingdom nicely. So instead of his shifting his palace and his officials to Daulatabad, he told each and every member of his capital to shift to Daulatabad. So people started packing their goods. He went in an elephant and a chariot, his officials went. But poor people had to walk and go. So when they reached Delhi, 25% of the people died on the road. Many people got sick. After staying there 2 years, he understood that Mongols are attacking Delhi and Mongol is not safe from Delhi. So to save Delhi from the Mongols attack, he shifted his capital back to Delhi. So instead of improving it, what did he do? He invested a lot of money, and that degraded the treasury of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He would have planned it properly. So when Ranchi became the capital of Jharkhand, did we shift the people from Patna to Ranchi? No, we just shifted the parliament and the officials. In the same way, he would have done it, but was not in the way. His planning was wrong. His idea was good. Next is issuing of copper coins, which were declared equal in value of silver and gold coins. Today we are using copper coins. His idea of copper coins was very good. Why? Because the silver and gold were found less in quantity, copper was more in quantity. But what wrong planning he did? He gave the same value to silver coins and as gold and silver. Same value to copper coins as gold and silver. So people started paying taxes in copper coins and keeping gold and silver coins in their houses. So the king's treasury became full of copper coins and the people gained silver and gold coins. So this way also the treasury of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq was degraded, and this decreased his power. Then raising taxes on agriculture in Ganga Yamuna Doab region. Muhammad bin Tughlaq wanted to increase his army and make his army more stronger to protect it from the enemy. For that he needed large amount of money. So there was an area in his kingdom that called the Ganga Yamuna Doab region. It was very fertile due to the flow of the rivers. So he thought, if I increase the tax in that region, there will not be any problem and I can raise my military power. So he imposed the taxes, but he forgot to give certain instructions to his officials. The officials were very strict in collecting the taxes. But the very year where this order was declared, that year the famine got in the region of Ganga and Yamuna Doab. When the famine was there, people did not grow crops. How will they pay the taxes? So many people ran away from there. Many people committed suicide. By the time when the king came to know that the people are not able to pay, that there's not much collection because the people have ran away and many people have done suicide due to famine. The king was very much shameful and he sent money and treasury help of the treasury to the region so that the people can settle and do their agriculture again. So this is how, instead of increasing his income got decreased. Instead of getting money, he had to invest money for the settlement of the people. He died in 1351 and was succeeded by Firoz Shah Tughlaq as he had no sons. So this is all about Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Next is the administration in the Delhi Sultanate. Administration means how was the king ruled. There was certain administration which were all followed by all the five dynasties of the Delhi Sultanate. Administration was highly centralized and powerful, means the king had all the power. The Sultan was the supreme authority. The same thing, the king had all the power. His words were the laws, and he had the last authority to punish and pardon anybody. The key figure in the administration was the Wazir, who acted as the prime minister. Today also the prime minister is the key figure of our government. Diwan-e-Insha dealt with state correspondence, means any notice or any kind of law which has to be issued can be issued only through Diwan-e-Insha. If the king issued any law, it was Diwan-e-Insha who sent information to the other districts. Ikta system was very famous during Sultanate period, means the kingdom was divided into small parts, that is known as iktas, and each ikta was placed under iktadars to govern it properly. The kingdom was divided into iktas and it was looked after by an officer known as iktadar. Ariz-e-Mamluk was the minister in charge of the army, means the commander in chief was known as Ariz-e-Mamluk. He used to recruit, means the commander in chief was powerful enough to recruit, appoint, equip, and pay the army too. Means all the powers were given to him. Diwan-e-Risala dealt with religious matters. There were religious matters also. All were dealt with Diwan-e-Risala. So these were the administrative officers, and these were the work. Next is literary sources. Now, for Delhi Sultanate, we have two types of sources. Everywhere we have two types of literary source and inscription. Inscription is not much important in your syllabus, but I'm just telling you the key points. Inscriptions are found in coins, monuments, milestone tombs. Till now, about inscription, all of you we have done in the Vedic period, we have done in the Harappan period, we have done in many other things also. So here also means all the writings which we found on the coins, monuments, milestones, and tombs were known as inscriptions. Next is these were written in Sanskrit, Arabic, and some in both the languages. Sanskrit was the Indian language, Arabic was their language because they came from Arab countries. Inscriptions on the Jama Masjid in Delhi, which was noticed by the famous traveler Ibn Battuta, helped him by to fix the date of the Muslim conquest of Delhi. Means in Jama Masjid in Delhi, many kinds of inscriptions were written, but many people were not able to read it. It was only the even famous traveler Ibn Battuta who read it and told about when the Muslim conquest started in Delhi. Then this is a very important part of your syllabus, that is archaeological source Qutub Minar. It is a monument built by slave dynasty and is situated in Delhi. Most of my you have visited also. It was started by Qutbuddin Aibak, completed by Iltutmish, and the fifth floor was added by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. It is said to be named after the famous Muslim saint Qutbuddin Ush. Till now in standard 7, you know that it was, as it was started by Qutbuddin Aibak, so it is known as Qutub Minar. No, it is named after the famous Muslim saint Qutbuddin Ush. The minar is a circular tower. It starts tapering as they ascend. Means when you go up, it becomes thinner, and when you come down, it is thicker. Means tapering, it goes on. Each story is separated from the other by projecting balconies. It is made up of red sandstone, marble, and quartzite. Previously, it was open so that the people can travel and they visit. The people can go up in stairs and visit the topmost part. But many people have committed suicide from them. So that is why now the stairs have been closed. So this is what you have to learn about Delhi Sultanate. Thank you, students.